Hi, folks, and welcome to this edition of the Irish Wrestling Podcast. Today, we are going to be going through the Belfast card and potentially the little bit of the Wexford card that we know for the big anniversary weekend
Mm.
coming up. Joining me, the interviewer extraordinaire has his hand in every facet of wrestling around the world, Mark O'Brien. Mark, it's great to have you. Great to see you again, buddy.
Thank you very much. That's the nicest you've ever given me in any sort of intro and any interaction we've ever had. So yeah, I'm going to hold you to that now that we've documented on camera. Thank you very much. And it couldn't be further from the truth. I'm an absolute chancer and a spoofer who just bullshitted his way into anything. But yeah, no, thank you very much for hosting this, Colin, and organising, getting us back and running and doing things Irish wrestling wise. So thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Big weekend coming up, so we need
Mm.
to get our
There
foot
are
into this one. So,
some gear, yeah.
yeah, we're planning on doing two parts. So we're gonna do Belfast, Wexford, even though there's not much for Wexford, but we will have a little look at the poster maybe because there's maybe a couple of
Mm.
giveaways on the poster. And then we'll also do a separate one for the big anniversary show in Dublin. But yeah, Wexford is we do have a card, but again with these weekends we don't know what implications are going to come of it based on the night before. So there's going to be a hell of a lot of
Mm.
speculating on this one, I think, Mark. Um,
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, like Wexford got one big so far. So yeah, it's gonna be 2 full days building into a kind of a third card off the back of it. It's always the way with these kind of rolling weekends. Obviously, we don't have a Wolves show to kind of compound that further. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see like which of these guests will be kind of there for, especially these imports and such, will be there for a third day, kind of over to here in Ireland as well. So yeah, a lot to look forward to.
yeah, they're as you said, imports. It's a pre-interview. Or hear me interview. We're doing have interviews in my head because I'm trying to arrange them as well as we're speaking. Import heavy show. And we do have the first one that I have on my list is
Mhm.
Suicide. Who the hell is Suicide, Mark? Let us know about Suicide.
Well, Suicide was Frankie Kazarian, then Christopher Daniels, then TJP, and I reckon, yeah, I don't give a shit if he messages me off the back of this now. I reckon Joe's probably just rented a suit. So I don't think you're gonna get TJP coming over from New Japan. I don't think you're gonna get Frankie Kazarian coming from TNA. I don't think you're gonna get Christopher Daniels coming from AEW to portray the character of Suicide, who appeared on and off in TNA in the mid 90s. He was Suicide, played by a couple of people. Then he was TJP. Then he was Manic. Then he's back to Suicide. He's a character based off the original TNA game that came out in about 2009 or so. I was called TNA Cross the Line. I actually really enjoyed it. It was very much a kind of lucha heavy type of wrestling game. It separated it from the melodramatic soap opera SmackDown versus Raw series. It was very, very enjoyable for those of us who actually watched um, the actual TNA, not this nonsense knockoff of a product which we see before our eyes on television most weeks. It's good. Yeah, Adam Maxted can you can pull Suicide for a chat or like whatever. See if you can people want to couple up with them or something. I don't know.
Might get a few
It
texts
could be
off from
fun.
during the week.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Pull them
Got
for
a
a chat during the week.
text.
Yeah. Got a text. Yeah, it should be good. I mean, it'll be like on paper, you've got a big guy, strong guy against like I assume somebody who's under we call it under a hood in wrestling. Yeah, so if he's under a hood, they'll bump all around the place. Max Dead will look good. He'll do a lot of I'm big, I'm handsome, and yeah, Adam Max Dead should win unless there's a big surprise under the suicide mask.
Yeah, do you think we're potentially in for a bit of a swerve with a big reveal at the end of that one, maybe? The mask coming off to surprise whoever underneath it.
But like, why would you? I don't think so because I don't see why you'd invest in hiring the TNA. I assume TNA IP
Mm.
intellectual property of Suicide. If you're suddenly going to take it off of somebody else,
Yeah, yeah.
which not to say like get a, like another random I don't know fucking flippy do lucha guy in. Do you know what I mean? Like if you can just put like hypothetically put some new guys training the School of Irish Wrestling to come and or I don't know somebody who's well versed in that kind of style of wrestling, kind of that acrobatic style. So we'll just put a
Mm.
random mask on them, or a gimmick suit or whatever. So yeah, I don't think there's going to be any sort of major reveal. There might well be, but like I don't. It'd have to be somebody from the TNA roster off the back of that. I would imagine
I
just
was
to
thinking
kind
maybe someone out of the OTT roster, if it is someone there to maybe set something up with Adam maybe going forward or something off the back of that.
I think it's gonna be a squash. I think it's a make Adam look good match, and I think if it was to be somebody underneath, it would have to be somebody from on the assumption that you're renting the Suicide IP.
Hmm.
You have to be somebody from TNA underneath that. Do you know what I mean? They
The
wouldn't just
last
have.
person to wear it, as far as I know, was Zachary Wentz. Um,
Okay, okay.
so I
Who was
don't
that?
know where he
Yeah,
stands because he's kind of double duty lately. He's been doing a bit of NXT as well as
that's finished anyway.
TNA.
So
So and TNA also have a big card this weekend. So
yeah,
I don't know how handy it would be to get someone like that over.
it could be like this. I don't know. Yeah, I think it'd be a good match for whoever's under the mask, and I think Adam Max will look. The mask is, or it's a match designed to make Adam Max look very good. My assumption on this.
Sorry, my dog is asleep over there and she's having a dream and she's barking in her sleep. So I don't know if that
Can't
could be
hear,
picked up.
can't hear a thing.
Uh,
We're good.
yeah, I can hear. I just find it fucking hilarious. Like, um, but we'll move on. Another couple of imports actually. One that we've seen
Mm,
regularly enough, or recently enough. Charles Crowley taking on
yeah,
Eugene. Bit of a strange get with Eugene. I know he has been floating about the last year or so. He's been over a couple of times to different promotions in the UK and stuff.
yeah.
Um, eh, I think a good fan pop, bit of a nostalgia pop there for some fans. He was never huge in WWE, but kind of a bit of a nostalgia pop that we usually get with
I mean, it's
these.
if you're gonna do like 2000, yeah, like it's 2004 to like 2006,
Hmm,
like that kind of time frame. He was in WWE, and like he's more known as Nick Dinsmore, who was a serious wrestler before and after, and as a coach as well.
hmm.
Like even other people are featuring across the weekend, and even Suicide and stuff. It's like as if you're assuming your fan base who attends these shows was heavily invested in wrestling in that early 2000s portion that as your booker is, because
Yeah,
like Booker could be 20 years older. Like, so the Belfast show could be a family friendly show, and they won't have a
yeah. Hmm.
clue who Eugene is, won't have a clue who Suicide is. Suicide or not, probably not a great name to have for a wrestler at a family friendly show. Or somebody who appears later on in the card was Chutron facing Corbin in his match later on in the Belfast card. So, like, there's a lot of people who've been brought in, but like, what return are you going to get for having guys who aren't familiar with modern fan bases? Like, you're making an assumption that parents and kids are really looking forward to seeing like these American wrestling stars, but the parents who might not necessarily have ever been into wrestling and the kids who obviously weren't alive in that time frame or mightn't be familiar with wrestling from that time frame, like what's the draw with those? Now like if it was Eugene versus somebody young in the Irish School of Wrestling, because Eugene Nick Dinsmore is known for his training, his producing, and kind of work behind the scenes in
Hmm.
wrestling. If that would make sense, if you're looking to bring somebody up from your school, but you're bringing him in against another comedy based character to a degree, Charles Crowley from Progress in the UK and whatnot. And like, listen, they'll be incredibly entertaining. And Charles Crowley I think, is brilliant. I love his whole act.
I
So
think
this
he
whole
lends a lot better to a show like this, that more family orientated crowd. I think that
yeah, yeah, he can
he'll
do, but he
lend
can
a
do
lot
both.
better to this. Yeah.
Yeah, you can do, yeah. And he's somebody because he's like relatively local as well.
Hmm.
You can use regularly and can be featured frequently as he has been across shows in Ireland and the UK. So will be that local familiarity with him. Yeah, it's just a funny matchup, and like it's like, oh, we've got these two guys, let's put them together, and they'll do like a comedy versus comedy. It's like, who's going to be the straight man in this? I think we
Yeah.
touched on this previously maybe a progress card, and we're talking about like, okay, you've got comedy versus comedy. It's not really balancing itself out well.
Yeah.
So yeah, like it's hard to say how this will go. Like it's not something that's going to blow me away on paper that I can kind of want to go out of my way to see. But I suppose on paper you've got two thousands wrestlers already appearing on the cards. So like, yeah, what do you do?
I
Let's
think
see how it
there
goes.
may be this is one where we might need to speculate a bit because we know that there's something going on with the Sam and Crowley as well. They've
Yeah,
had a little something. They like Crowley threw Sam out of the local rumble. Then at the most recent show, the road to the anniversary, Sam was getting attacked by Josh. Crowley came out for the save, and then there was a promo went up afterwards where Crowley said that Sam Sam and him need to trust each other and they need each other at the moment, you know. So
yeah.
it wouldn't surprise me if Sam was involved somewhere here. Or again, this is potentially a match that could change off the back of something that may happen on Saturday as well.
Yeah, it could be something nice afterwards with Eugene and Sam, but like again, you're kind of keeping Sam at a certain level.
Hmm.
Do you know what I mean? He's going from GN champion to kind of falling back into this kind of comedy-ish kind of realm. How does he advance further up the card? How does he advance the character? Like the stuff with Josh, I thought it was brilliant to watch. And then you're
Hmm.
thinking that's okay, that's where the money is. That's where you deep dive further into.
Yeah.
That's where you get to see Sam. But he's done stuff with Renzo as well in the past, where you kind
Mm.
of see that kind of more serious side, the more vicious side. Then they kind of step back, how
Yeah.
he's booked, how he's handled, what his like whole platform is. Like he's when people get pigeonholed and held back and like, oh no, that's him, this is where we fit it into our card, the psychology of a card or whatever. But like it feels like to a degree, like it's cool he gets to feature these guys who got big profiles, but like the progression of working with Josh, that would elevate both of them into a serious angle
Hmm.
rather than falling back into over the top comedy shtick. Like it's 2000, it's 2000s comedy. Yeah, that's all it is. That for this kind of match on paper, that's what it feels like.
Yeah, it is a bit disappointing that the trigger hasn't been pulled or that we know of on the Josh Sam stuff running into this weekend. I think everyone was
Yeah,
anticipating something, whether it be at the anniversary show or at this aftermatch show, to kind of further that. And it's not to say that it's not going to happen, but I think people were expecting an
yeah, but I mean,
announcement of a match of some sort.
yeah, I mean, like on the Saturday, you could like, I mean, one of the 2 days this weekend, you could have Sam versus somebody, and
Mhm.
then Josh comes out and beats the piss out of Sam.
Yeah.
But like, he's not even listed here.
Hmm.
So if he's not even listed on this card. So
Yeah.
like if you're we're making assumptions that Sam's going to be involved in the Charles Crowley Eugene match. So he's the third wheel to that, which makes
Hmm.
Josh the fourth wheel to all this. So
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
the relevant party on that. And that's your two domestic guys who are training within the Irish School of Wrestling. And I know Josh got injuries and whatnot, and there's thought whatever going on around this, but like that's what's your priorities? Are you building guys up? Are you building the scene? Or are you flogging tickets? What's the priority on that front?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
We'll stick with the import side for a moment. The 90s noughties WWE. Rene Dupree versus Damien Corvin. Now we seen. I thought was a very good promo from Corvin. Actually got me. To be fair, I've been heavily critical of Corvin in the past.
yeah,
I think I'm justified in what I was saying. But this promo that he put out actually got me a little bit excited. It was a typical Corvin promo, like I'm gonna burn everything down, but it did kind of say, well, maybe it is his time, and maybe it is time for someone like him to take a foothold in the Irish scene. Someone who hasn't, he's been around, and he was around in a massive tag team with the Kings of the North, but as a singles, he's been spouting the same kind of stuff and not kind of getting that lift. Where this time I'm kind of like, oh, this could be the time to pull the trigger on him. He's been put in with Rene Dupree again, potentially a bit of a throwaway, but if Corvin comes out the back of it, he has that little notch of I be
yeah,
a former WWE guy, which could be a great setup in my
yeah.
opinion. And I think that's what this match probably should be, and hopefully what it will be.
I think this will end up being a good match, right? I think it will. Like I mean, he's kind of hit the nail on the head there regarding Corbin. Corbin's kind of been in this holding pattern for like a year and a half,
Hmm.
like a year and a half to 2 years, where he's gonna do this, that, and the other, but then like suddenly he's just not on shows.
Yeah.
He's not booked. He'll do the Belfast shows once a quarter or once
Hmm.
or 3 times a year, whatever it is. So like you've split him up from Kings of the North and whatnot, and you've kind of pigeonholing into only appearing in Belfast shows, and again that comes down to the decision making of a booker. Um, that's fine. There's obviously all sorts of ramifications and complexities we're not aware, privy to, or aware of in terms of behind the scenes and how people interpersonal dynamics and whatnot. And there might be an arrangement that's in place for all we know. That's fine. Um, like this match should be good. Like I mean, you've got a guy who's from again early 2000s WWE. 90% of the crowd won't know. Like people in the Facebook group, I know there's one person pretending to know who he was, but he wasn't. Probably wasn't alive when Rene Dupree was in WWE before he got removed. Like Rene Dupree was then wrestling in pro wrestling. No, he had a nice career over in Japan as well. So like I don't think there's many people in the audience who will be overly familiar with Rene Dupree from his WWE tenure, from his Japan tenure. I know he's had kind of sporadic appearances here in the UK. People might be familiar with his Renee's Cafe podcast, where like he's been in trouble a number of times for doing cocaine live on air, which isn't great. So like he'll come in, he'll have a physical match, he'll tell a good story. Is this a match that'll help Corvin with his own personal aspirations? Maybe getting it on tape, maybe because I think to be frank, you more often see Corvin appearing as extras on WWE shows or AEW shows when they're over in the UK than you do necessarily seeing him on shows across the UK and the independent scene the last 2 years. And that's fine. Like it's building up a profile and kind of within WWE. And these guys put a huge amount of personal work into his physical
Yeah,
development and whatnot as well, and is investing in himself in that front. But like, you just kind of wonder, like obviously, again, you're not privy to what kind of goes on behind the scenes and people who books who and who books what and whatnot. But like this match on paper, it's somebody like an ex-WWE guy, an ex-Japan guy, like that. And if it goes down well, it's something you got on tape, you can flog around and could go down very well from on that front. Like I think it'd be a good, solid, hard-hitting match. Probably be good psychology, good story behind it, and yeah, like this will be enjoyable. Again, like it's a match like Adam McStay versus Suicide that's been designed to make the hometown guy look good. I think more than anything.
yeah, yeah,
Be my
absolutely. And like to be fair, like I again getting back to Corvin, I think he's probably due a bit of a push at this stage. Like I know he's had the stuff with
yeah.
the tag teams that we said already, and as you said that he's been in that holding pattern for about a year, year and a half since he's left the Kings, and I think he's due it at this stage. And I think there's only so much that you can give before um
Well, how many times are you
it
gonna be
start.
booked in to do a run in after matches to beat somebody down?
Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing. It kind of becomes a little bit stale, and I actually expected him to last year once he left the Kings to kind of go on that bit of a run and maybe be that challenger,
Yeah,
for against maybe Sam once Sam turns face that Corvin might be
yeah.
the heel to Sam's face,
You
and
could have been
we
perfect for
didn't
Barry
get
as
that.
well. So you never know.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
the things could have been in the works as well. So yeah.
yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
hmm.
Speaking of Sammy, though, we'll move on.
Oh, very good.
We
Very
do
good.
have
That's very good. That's very smooth.
You're not meant to point it out though.
No, that's a
Takes away
transition.
from it. Like.
Transition. Nice.
So we do have an R match, as I call them in here.
Oh,
Like, so we have a Sammy D or J taking on
yeah.
Michael Oku. Again, something from the night before. The winner of that match will go on to face Michael Oku in Belfast. And we know Michael. We've seen him before. He's on this
Mhm.
skyrocket trajectory at the moment. And great to have him over for a big weekend like this. He has lended himself over the past number of years to the Irish scene and to OTT, and
Yeah.
he's always great to see when he comes over, and he always puts in a hell of a performance.
Hmm.
So it's great to have him back. Who do we see him going against though? I know we leave the majority of it and we leave the nitty-gritty to our Dublin show, but just like who do you think is coming out of that match victorious and will be
Okay.
taking on Michael here? Jay?
Okay. Okay. I don't
Even
know. We
if
getting into that now, or
even if they weren't having a match, and this is something that I've heard some people talking about, that even if it wasn't Sammy and Jay having a match and the winner will face him, even if that match wasn't happening and it was like, oh well, Michael could be facing Jay or Sam or someone else,
yeah, yeah,
Jay seems to be the name that's the standout to face him here, regardless of anything, doesn't it? Like it seems to
yeah. Like I
be
mean, that's the
that
one I want
match
to see as
type
well.
seems to be, yeah.
That's the one that excites you to see. Like,
Hmm.
yeah. People kind of associate Michael Oku with it being a high flyer, but he's not, and it just shows a huge amount of like lack of awareness people have, and things that happen outside of WWE or outside of Ireland. Like Michael Oku's a huge deal. Like he got presented as one of the biggest wrestling stars in the world at when he was at CMLL, the
Hmm.
former Mystico's 20th anniversary show, where he's wrestling in front of 20,000 people 4 nights in a week. Um, he's wherever he's gone, beat across New Japan Pro Wrestling, the World Quest and whatnot. He's gotten to tag like Tanahashi and many other stars. Like Rev Pro, he's the biggest thing since sliced bread, which is like at the minute it's the hottest thing in Europe by a country mile.
Hmm.
Dwarfs was going on in Ireland. I just he's kind of been Mike Loku, like obviously the night before he's in that money match, and it's just like kind of yay, cool. Look, we got this guy from he's good at wrestling, bring him over. But like I don't think he's presented properly. Whereas now
Hmm.
it's like he's secondary to the the I Quit match the day before, and I don't like how that's kind of
Yeah.
formulated. And like, listen, it'd be a good match regardless. But like, firstly, why would Sammy D or Jay be? Is that the winner who doesn't quit gets to face Mike Loku? Is that a prize? Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
the loser that doesn't get paid to wrestle on this on the Belfast show? Like, or what's the logic for like is this going to be a number one contenders match? Is this going to be for a new title or what's it going to be for? Like, why are they progressing to face Michael Oku? Like, what's the logic behind it? And do you know what I mean? It's just I don't
I
get it.
was kind of looking at it
People
from
always go,
the
what's the
other
story?
side.
Like, I don't not everything needs a story, but like,
Yeah,
what you
yeah. Well,
why just leave this open
I was
ended?
looking at it from the other side, kind of as a case of, and again, I don't want to delve too much into the match on Saturday, but potentially is the person who says I quit, are they actually quitting? And it's not a prize for the winner, it's a fact that they just won't be there because they're after quitting. And
Yeah,
that's leaves it that this person is gonna face them because the other person's gone more than in a reward for winning the match, if that makes sense. And that's kind of how it's kind of coming across to me. And that's to be seen and what's gonna happen with the fallout from
yeah,
that I quit match. But um yeah, I just think that Jay, we know what Sammy can do. Sammy can go in there and have a match with Michael, no problem, and they did put on a great match. I think Jay, as that progressive talent and someone who
yeah,
is honed in and fixated on wanting to move up the card, and at the moment seems to be Mr. Irish Wrestling,
yeah.
that he will be the one to go in and have that match with Michael, and probably needs that match with Michael, if that makes sense, to get him to
Mhm.
that level because Michael is at that level.
Yeah.
Maybe not
It's
an
yeah,
OTT, but he has been in other promotions. And
yeah. Johnson, like it's even this is kind of sad, like almost like the thought of Sammy versus Michael, like given where Sammy was 18 months, 2 years ago, like the kind of fanfare he had, and like I'm not even that pushed to see Sammy versus Michael. Do you know what I mean? Like it's kind of as a fan, you kind of want to see Jay versus Michael. You think you get more out of it. Like all the kind of pomp and ceremony and excitement that Sammy D had off the back of 2022 through to parts of 2023, like it's just not there anymore. And that's why there's almost that level of expectation you talked about. Like if somebody quits and he's gone, like potentially Sammy or Jay could be gone. Like, yeah, I don't know. It's just that kind of it's almost an assumption going into the Belfast show as we're doing the Belfast show here. That'll be Jay versus Michael. And that's yeah, like I think Jay versus Michael would be brilliant.
is that
Um,
evidence,
it'll
though, what you're
show more.
saying there, Mark? Is that evidence of what you were saying about Sammy? Is that evidence of the chase is always better than the goal? Like the chase for Sam seemed to be red hot, and then when he got there was red hot, and then you have that drop off, that cooling off. And I think it's the same with anyone who's chasing, and we're seeing it in WWE with Cody now as well. They're trying to keep him up there, but there's a lot of people
Yeah,
cooling off on him
I
once he
mean,
gets there,
there's also been booked him into flip flopping with Sam.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, what is he? Like, people get fed up not knowing what side of the coin he's sitting on. So, like,
yeah.
if he's a baby face, you need to have a line of heels to work through. So that'll be Damo, Corvin, whoever else. You get a queue a mile long. You bring in imports. You keep building and building and building. And have these guys beat the piss out of him, and he coming from underneath to come out on top. Or if he's going to be a heel, have him be a monster heel with the draw and kind of do the stuff like where he's fucking Pillmanizing Jay, he's Pillmanizing Barry. Like that's the type of stuff you do as a heel. But like it's all comes down to how you booked. Like it doesn't matter. Like
Yeah.
oh, chase is always better than the actual goal. That's not necessarily the case. Look at WWE's business model the first 10 years of WrestleMania was where Hulk Hogan was permanently the champion. Like John Cena was permanently the champion for 10 years as well. Like it's not always the case. It depends what you do and how you book it. Again, that's easier said than done and what tools you have available to play with.
Do you think that
Like
these long championship reigns, and that's what we've seen? Now we know that we had the stuff with Barry, and Trent had a kind of shorter reign, but heritagely the OTT champion usually has a longer reign. Do you think that that's detrimental potentially?
the longer reigns because you've shows once or twice. Like you've fucking maximum 12 shows a year. Like,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? You have one weekend every month, or you have one weekend every 2 months. Some weekends it's every 3 months. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's because you're not going week to week.
Hmm.
Like you can talk about time frame, but like you might as well say it might be maximum 24 shows in that year. That's
Yeah, yeah.
actually in that kind of sphere and canon as such. So it's not necessarily like oh he's been champion for a year. He has been champion for a year, but like that's 24 plus days. And how many days has that belt been defended in different promotions and promoted on XYZ shows and what media appearances are going along with that and what's been done to drive that like drive the value of a School of Irish Wrestling? How many seminars is that title being presented at? And all these kind of things go into it. So like, yeah, I don't know. It's just like the title. There's nothing mentioned about the OTT title be appearing on the show either, as far as I can see, for the Belfast show either, which is
No, nothing yet. I think that may change though,
yeah,
personally, but
off the back of
um, yeah,
yeah the Saturday show. But yeah,
TBD at the moment.
sorry, being very down on this, but I think the Jay versus Mike Loku opportunity, the two of them facing each other, would be brilliant. I think Jay, it would give Jay a chance to kind of fight from underneath as well and show his kind of babyface fire and his willingness to kind of overcome as well. So I'd be, it's quite a good opportunity for Jay.
Yeah, like we've seen Jay's trajectory
Sorry.
already to this point, and I think we need to start seeing, and we've seen glimpses of it, but we need to start seeing regular main event Jay.
Mm.
And that's what I like, and that's something that I think was kind of missing a bit with Barry, and we didn't get that push to the top and then hold at the top before he won the big one. Where I think that's the trajectory that I can see Jay on is he's getting these bigger matches and he's gonna get these kind of main event style matches before he actually
Yeah,
gets the opportunity for that big match, and it kind of establishes him then as a force before he wins it,
yeah.
if he does go to do it, but. We'll move
Well, like a lot of
on.
people, it's two steps forward. Like a lot of people, sorry, I was going to say,
One,
like a lot of people, it's two steps forward, one step backward, like
yeah,
due to booking and also injuries as well. So I think there's more. It's not just putting it on Jay, like oh, we haven't seen Jay do this. Whatever Jay does, performance wise, on screen, promo, everything, he's fully invested in as a performer, as a person
mhm,
as well, and as a wrestler. Like, he's absolutely incredible.
yeah,
You you're limited by what your parameters are,
mhm,
be it like physically or what your instructions are. So yeah, that's my view on that.
yeah. We do have another R match on the card. We have Amira Blair obviously coming in. Uh, Northern Ireland native, coming home for the first time in a while. She hasn't been around
Mhm.
Belfast in I think it's well over a year now at this stage, and she'll be taking on Session Martina or Raven Creed. Now, no mention of a women's championship from what I found, but presumably this will
Mhm.
be a defense depending on who comes out the
Yeah,
victor on the Saturday.
yeah,
Amira always kind of puts on a good show. She's always entertaining. She has had her critics for not maybe being the best wrestler, but like
mhm.
wrestling is more than what you can do in the ring. It's like I think
Yeah,
she has a great character nailed down, and she's very entertaining, and her performances are brilliant. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this. This could be a good one, and and I don't see Amira winning by any stretch of the imagination.
mm,
But again, this match could be. I'm looking at this match as is this one that could also potentially change or evolve, based on Saturday, or could we see maybe a no contest finish based on fallout from Saturday, or um. But yeah, this one's interesting, and I think for the first time in a while now, probably since the back end of last year, where we had Debbie and Martina, the women's division is actually intriguing again, and is
mm,
I think Raven coming back is a breath of fresh air and has kind of lit a fire underneath a few people and the fans as well, and people are
mhm.
really looking forward to what's to come.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people kind of see Creed up there, well, by fucking time. Again, that's right. Might be a fault of. Well, no idea whose fault that is in terms of who gets booked and whatnot. But yeah, listen, whoever's facing a Mirror Blair, you know that there'll be kind of that fun atmosphere. As I imagine this will be a prior show opener. I think this will be something for everybody in the audience. It'll get everybody in the crowd engaged, energy wise. There'll be plenty of kind of panto antics.
Mhm.
For a Sunday kind of family show. Yeah, no, this will be good. Like Amira is very good in her lane in terms of like the stuff she does. Right, cabaret where she's doing those matches on boats and all across shows and having good fun. So no, yeah, listen, this will be good. Session Moth, kind of been teasing online like 10 years in, it's all or nothing. So it'll be interesting to see what ways this goes. Raven Creed versus Amira, that could be interesting. Raven Creed beating the piss out of Amira possibly.
That's what you'd
It's hard
expect.
to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Whereas I think if there'd be a bit more antics if it was Martina and Amira,
Hmm.
which again could be fun if there's a show opener on a Sunday bank holiday weekend. So yeah, it's hard to know which way this will go, but again, this will be as say this something for in the audience this type of match, your late show match. So yeah, this will be good fun.
The next match that we have coming up, we have another import coming in. We have Ogla Blanc against Cian Noonan. Am I pronouncing that correctly, Mark, in French?
Aigle Blanc,
Yeah.
Aigle Blanc.
Yeah, I'm not that sounds like you're chewing bees or something when you're saying that.
Mm.
Um but yeah, this guy making his OTT debut this weekend, I've seen him a couple of times live and seen a fair few videos of him. He's very, very impressive.
Uh-huh. Yeah, he is.
So
He's fast. Yeah, I think people kind of giving him the kind of bubbled nature of Irish wrestling, thinking like kind of a lot of times people are kind of unaware what happens outside of Ireland, unless it's on
yeah.
American television. But if you're somebody who's familiar with like the French wrestling scene, the German wrestling scene, the UK wrestling scene, Spanish wrestling scene, they're all significantly bigger and more hyped at the minute than the Irish wrestling scene. And one of the key players in that, be it across Banger Zone Wrestling, APC Catch, WXW, and so many more promotions, Aigle Blanc. And then you see he's been brought over to the likes of Progress shows all around the UK the last year or so. And everything he's done is nearly turned to gold. Now, like again, he doesn't have the profile in here in Ireland, but you're limited by um what your exposure is and like knowledge of where you're placing a card and how often you're brought over. But a match with this for Cian Noonan could be incredibly exciting. I think you were touching on earlier, speaking off camera, talking about Cian kind of pivoting his character regarding kind of how he's coming across,
Hmm.
acting wise, and whatnot. So it'd be interesting to see the dynamics of this. If Cian's kind of shifting in terms of his attitude and persona versus a guy like Igor Blanc. So yeah, this could be very very intriguing. I think Cian Noonan has been somebody that pair of us have been really high on as a person, a performer, everything under the sun. For his attitude and everything he touches. Maybe hasn't necessarily been rewarded with the appearances he's been due. I think, in our opinion, across the island of Ireland.
Hmm.
But I think
Yeah.
this could be a really really exciting opportunity for him. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the thing about Cian is I think Cian Noonan, the person, Cian Noonan, is a
Mhm.
ready-made superstar. I don't think he needs anything. I don't think he needs any bells and whistles. He is the
Yeah.
epitome of a wrestling fan who has transitioned into being a wrestler. His passion for wrestling and his love of wrestling that exudes through him and has come through him anytime I've spoken to him. That in itself is a story of being a lifelong wrestling fan chasing your dream. And I genuinely don't think he needs anything else bar that. And I think he's ready
Yeah.
made and he could just be himself for the rest of his
Yeah.
career and I think he would like be a superstar. You know,
Yeah. I
I
think the my biggest gripe in OTT wrestling the past couple of years is this fresh batch of wrestlers that come through have to be or encouraged to be these over the top characters. And that's not reflective of what modern wrestling is. It's
hmm
informed by booking that has largely been a booking committee or booker or whatever that's based a lot of their content traditionally over the last 20 years that they've produced based on early and mid 90s wrestling, pre-attitude era, where everybody's like a garbage man, everybody's a dentist, everybody's a character, a character, a character. You can have a character, you don't have to be over the top ridiculous, out of this world type of thing.
hmm
You can be yourself. You can have people. You can be relatable. That's what drew money. That's what turned wrestling around in the late 90s
hmm
as a whole industry. People started to become. They can talk about attitude and edgy content. No, if suddenly people are no longer garbage men and dentists, people there were still some supernatural nonsense crap over there, but by and
Yeah.
large, people that are driving you money were relatable. People who can tell you what their gripes were, what they're gonna do about it, how they're gonna do it, what their goals are. Even now with Cody Rhodes watching WWE, the highest I've ever been. Cody Rhodes, I'm a relatable guy. I've come from a wrestling family. I've had this kind of title chase that's been ever eluded me my whole life, me and my family, and I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it for you, all of you. We're gonna do it together. He may have like a catchy entrance song and he might wear a nice jacket, but his character is very much grounded in humility and humanity. Now, when you've got a guy like Cian Noonan, who is the most authentic person you'll ever meet in terms of the love of wrestling. He's very much like the same ilk of an LJ Cleary. Like you sit down chatting to him and you can't get him to shut up. And then you might be wrecked from traveling from Dublin to Limerick or wherever it is, and you got this little fella yapping in your ear talking about like, oh, what's your favorite match? Just leave me alone. Um, do you know what I mean? And like that's what you want. That's what you need to get across. You let this fella talk about how much it means to him, how much he wants. Let him be him, rather than have to be. I'm sculpted. Like, okay, you're sculpted, grand, but like a baby face doesn't brag about how they look.
Yeah.
Baby face doesn't talk about their body. A baby face does not come up with a nickname like sculpted. If he's going to be a little prick who knows he's good looking, who knows he's like better than you, and he's going to do the Randy Orton pose, and he's going to lube himself up in baby oil or whatever did he shit. Sorry, you can cut that out. You can go for you can yeah lash it on that side of things. If you're going to be like a little sneaky prick, which I could very easily see him be if you're going to lean
Yeah.
into that sculpted side. Um, but I think you saw a promo recently where he was leaning into Conor McGregor role. Like automatically, I despise the man.
It was just how he was speaking. It just sounded a little bit forced, and it wasn't him, and
Mm.
that's what I don't. Now I get that people have to do that, and I
Yeah, yeah.
get that some people in characters have to do that, and when they are that character, and listen, if that's
Mm.
if that's what he's going with, great. I'll still support him the whole way through it.
Yeah.
I just don't, from my side, I just don't think he needs it. I
No.
just think that he is a ready-made, like he is the epitome of every fan that is coming to watch him. Every single fan that comes to watch a wrestling show has been in the position of whatever age they were, whether it was 5 or 35, saying, I would fucking love to do that. And I have a
Hmm.
passion for this, and I've grown up watching it, and my dream would have been to step in that ring.
Hmm.
And Keane has come from that.
Hmm.
Keane was at shows that I was at in the crowd before he started training.
Hmm.
Kane was just a passionate wrestling fan who gambled and took the bet on himself, went and started training, and has this natural gifted ability to be able to do it. And that's what I would just love to see from him. And
Yeah.
maybe I'm after getting that in my head a bit too much, and maybe I'm gonna have that there, and when I'm looking at, I'm like, why aren't you doing this, and why aren't you doing it?
Yeah.
And maybe I'm swaying my own bias towards it, but I just think he's a white meat baby face. He could be a people's champion if that's like that is what a people's champion could be. Would
Yeah.
be a guy who's come from you, has had the same dreams, the same passions as you, and has gone out and has done it. And I know Mark saying about talking about like when you're on a journey with him or whatever. Like I love that. Like one of the first times I sat down with Keane, we were at a show and we were having lunch before a show, and we were chatting to Keane, and he was asking what was your favorite match, and do you remember this and do you remember that? And I love that shit. Like, and I talk to someone about that all day. Mark wouldn't, obviously, but I love
Love
that stuff. And
you.
like, but that was one of the first moments that said to me, like, this guy like he's oozing passion for this and he loves it, and that can go such a long way. And you mentioned LJ. LJ is the exact same, and he does the exact same. If anyone's ever talked to LJ, he's just like he's a full wrestling nerd. He loves it.
Yeah.
He doesn't drink. Him and his mates would regularly go back to one of the guys' houses and stick on an old wrestling show and watch an old wrestling show, and like that's for some people, maybe not for people like Mark, but but that just shows the passion. And
Yeah.
Keane is definitely, to me right now, he is the next LJ Cleary, or what could be the next LJ Cleary from this country.
You've
And
got to empower somebody. You've got to give him somebody that mantle. You've got to help him. You've got to go out of your way.
mm,
Like this is a really cool opportunity for him. But like, there's been loads of other cool opportunities where he's on a show one weekend, that he's off the next month. Yeah,
yeah,
don't
yeah,
see him
yeah,
for 2 months, and he's like, and I don't. And then like, how often are they being booked? A guy like Keane Noonan. Why isn't he on every RCW show? Why isn't he every Fight Factory show? Why isn't he on every Titanic show? Why isn't he any every NLW show? Why isn't he being allowed to go? Why isn't he going over to Scotland and doing shows with like fucking Cowboy? Martin, Brad, Lee, or Fabio rather, like all these guys. Why isn't he doing that type of thing? Like this guy, you can push the moon. Like instead of having to micromanage and control everybody's minutes across an island,
Yeah.
like assuming that everybody watches every minute of everything and everything in this island. Nobody watches everything. People watch your product, OTT, more than anything. Empower Keane Noonan. Let him be him. Give him time to breathe and understand and grow. Like if you're in a corporate environment, you upskill people to you give them tools, you build them up technically, what their capabilities are. You give them more additional responsibility, you put them in positions to succeed. I coach rugby. You go out of your way in the background to upskill somebody as best you can. You then put them into certain positions in an integrated format. You give them, I don't know, say rugby wise, give them 10 minutes one position one weekend, then it's 20, they build up to a half, then you can see how they get on if they can sink or swim, then you push them to a higher level, be it some training with our senior team, or then you're playing AIL rugby or whatever it is. Like Keane Noonan should be every weekend at every show in this country, and there's no talent of his age like him in the country in our view, anyway. So yeah, that's my rant over now. But
Yeah.
no, this match as itself in terms of Igor Blanc, that's incredibly exciting to have him over for an OTT weekend. I've no doubt Keane will absolutely smash this.
Yeah, 100%. And listen, I hope that lands the way it should be. Like we are just incredibly passionate, and we really want to see the best for
Mm.
Keane, and we want to see him rise and be the superstar that we know he is. And if that comes across critical, like I apologize for being critical. If that's how it comes across, it's not. It's trying to be constructive and really have high hopes for this guy and really want to see him succeed. So, um. The last thing we kind of touched on it a little bit was like there's no OTT championship match yet. We did speak about Corvin. We do know that Corvin has that match with
René Dupree.
Rene Dupree. Does that maybe develop off the back of maybe that could be one that could develop off the back of Saturday into a match on Sunday? Could that
Yeah,
change into a triple threat
yeah.
championship match potentially?
Corbin wins the title off René Dupree. I like your thinking. You can see the future. That's what's going to happen. So you're saying Colin is that
I'm saying potentially the match on
René
Saturday.
Dupree is going to win the title against Damo. That's what you just said on camera.
I'm saying potentially the match on Saturday could end in a no contest disqualification, a bit of a smalls finish involving Corvin. Corvin has a match with Dupree on the Sunday. Does Damo get involved in that? Does that match change into a different match? Does it become a triple threat match? Does it evolve into something? That's what I can kind of see happening. Um,
I think you'll have Port Damo in a completely different avenue with somebody off the back of whatever happens on Saturday. Could you see somebody like a Leighton Buzzard here this Saturday?
is he ready?
I don't know, but he's bumping and stuff in rings. He's been training if you follow him. I'm just hypothetically saying. I'm not a
Yeah,
doctor,
yeah.
but I'm
Yeah,
just saying, like, who's that? Yeah,
I think he's looking at maybe the local Rumble return. I think he'd be a local
perfect.
Rumble return in
But
Feb.
just that's the kind of
Yeah.
something that ilk. Like,
Mm.
if this is Fight Factory, you'd be looking at like, what about Fabio? Fabio's not in this
Yeah.
card. Martin Steers is injured. Fabio's one of the best.
Fabio could be
Fabio's one of the best
suicide.
bets in the huh?
Fabio could be
Fabio could be
suicide.
suicide. There you are. There you are.
I was just about to say that the freshness aren't on the show. Obviously, we know that Martin's
That's
injured, but
madness. And Martin Steers
yeah,
is injured. You get someone with Fabio on a show somewhere. Anyway,
yeah. Um,
Terry
uh,
Thatcher as well.
Thatcher as well. Yeah, should be booked. He had a massive match with Speedball. Uh,
Belfast card would be perfect for both of them. But yeah.
yeah, and I thought that he was going to get that massive singles push. Presumably something was meant to happen with Boots. We do know that there was an injury in that match with
Mhm.
Thatcher, and maybe that didn't evolve, and maybe that's going to maybe resurface here and maybe evolve into a coming show where like they might have just had to
Yeah.
restructure a little bit. But um I think that's all from the Belfast card, but we'll have a quick look at Wexford. Wexford on the Monday, Spiegel tent, Bank
Mm.
Holiday Monday. It's always a very fun show, usually non-canon. Stuff that kind of happens here, apart from the one time that Scotty Davis lost the NLW Championship.
Yeah.
Um, that kind of transitioned over, but they're not recorded. But we do have one match, which is Damo against Bittersweet Josh. We saw,
Cool. It's very cool. But off the back of that, then he's also advertised Damo holding his belt. So you're now operating off the assumption Damo
yeah.
wins on Saturday. Whatever he does on Sunday will probably inform into something on the Monday. But then
hmm
how does that angle schmoz into something with Sam and Josh plus Damo? How does that all work about? Does if this isn't recorded, so it's technically non-canon,
Yeah.
for example, like is this just like a cool spot for Josh to be in, which it could well be. Which that's
Potentially, yeah. I'd
yeah,
say
it's
that's
something.
likely. Say that's
Yeah,
likely.
that's likely. Yeah, okay. That off the back of that, then that's still very very cool, and I'd be delighted for Josh more than anything. I mean,
Yeah,
like obviously worked angle, but like still relatively serious arm injuries kind of gone through recently as well. So yeah, very very intrigued to see. Like this, these are obviously big opportunity shows, kind of for people to perform in a kind of unique and cool environment too. So yeah, I know you'll be down in that show, so I'm looking
yeah.
forward to seeing how it goes.
Like I really like the stuff that BDE have been doing over the last while. I think it's a little bit hokey, but the stuff in the ring, they're a good solid team. I think Nicky,
Mm.
the veteran with the up and comer Josh, which we have in a couple of places, I think they work very well together. And then JB coming in as that kind of like voice in behind and the little he's a bit of a shit heel, kind of doing stuff on the outside. And
Mm.
I like the dynamic there, but I do like that this is kind of taking Josh out of that potentially into a singles match. It very deserving singles match in my opinion.
Yeah.
And be great to see. And for him to, if this is what I can only presume is a reward for all your hard work,
Mm.
go in there and have a match with the champ. Um with someone like Damo who's huge all over the world and is wrestling all over the world. I think this is huge from, and again, as you said, wrestling angles aside, I'm very happy that he's getting this opportunity,
Yeah.
even if it is on a non-canon show. Just other stuff that's on the people that are on the poster. We have Santos, Scotty Davis, Session Martina, Ogla Blanc, Social Elite, and the Sam are all on the poster. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be there, but they are on the poster and probably expected to be there. So yeah, very fun show. I think it's something like fucking 12 quid or something. I'm not sure if tickets are sold out or not. I probably should have checked that before we started here. But if they're not and you're in the area in Wexford, in and around Wexford, Wicklow, Waterford areas, take the trip over. It's a good afternoon, Monday
Mm.
bank holiday, before the festivities of Halloween later on in the week. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's pretty much all we have for today or for
Mm.
this show because me and Mark are going to jump straight in now and we're going to record the Dublin show, which we're not going to drop though on the same day because that would be madness. So we'll probably drop it the day after. So this is probably going to go out on maybe Thursday with that show going out on Friday. So yeah, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening as always. And join us for the Dublin show where we go over all the massive festivities for what's scheduled on Saturday. But for now, thank you very much for joining and we'll see you soon.